Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to an Upskills series webinar. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm joined by Mr. Danny Large, and Danny is an aesthetic business consultant from DSL Consulting. We're going to be talking this morning about lockdown, but we're going to be putting more of a positive spin on lockdown and the coronavirus situation, because I think Danny and I are both in agreement that we've all had enough of the doom and gloom. So just as everyone joins and comes into the session, Danny, do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about? I know you've got 5 top tips for us about maximising our time in lockdown. Do you want to just kind of introduce yourself, introduce the session, and a little bit what we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so for those who don't know me, which is probably many, my name is Danny Large. I have been part of the wonderful aesthetic industry for 10 years now. I started with the wonderful Martin Rowe and Ron Meyer from Consulting Room as a lowly salesman, and worked with Ron and Martin for 5 years. And I decided to start my own business as a business consultant in aesthetics. And I've been lucky to work with companies like BTL, Wiggle Medical, etchreview.com, Church Pharmacy, and I've also was lucky enough to work with and launch Aesthetic Medicine Live with Vicky and Mark and Georgia and the rest of the team.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You've obviously got loads of experience, as you just explained, with the business side of aesthetics, and as well as running your own consultancy, you're involved with various organisations and things in the industry as well, like bars. So you must have learnt a lot last year with your fingers in so many pies. You're going to recap a little bit, I know, for us about your year last year and kind of what you learned and how you managed it all, because you do so much. So can you tell us a little bit about how last year was for you, please?
Well, time management is something I certainly learned, but last year was, without trying to go down the business jargon route, was a bit of an awakening in regards to what did I want to do, what was important to me, and I really started looking at what was important and what I wanted to do. And for when I first started DSL, I wanted to be able to have a balanced life of work and personal life, which I didn't have before. That wasn't due to anything that anyone else had done to me. It's just the way that I'd done it myself. And prior to lockdown in March, I'd gone the other way, and it was like, I don't want to do this. I need to think about what I'm doing. So, so I sat back and I looked at what I was doing. I was lucky enough that I only lost one real major contract during lockdown, which was no fault of the people, but it's just the fact that it wasn't going to work because everyone was in lockdown. And I was able to continue. But I basically looked at it and thought, what can I do to help people? Now, I don't like being particularly critical of colleagues or anything like that, but I think sometimes in the state, when I first started, I was taught by Ron and Martin and David, and obviously you wanted to make money, but you also wanted to help people. David Hicks, I should talk about, he's the godfather of aesthetics if you don't know who David is. And I think we've gone away from that slightly. So I thought, how can I help people with and support people in this horrible time? Because if I'm scared about it, what must everyone else be like? I mean, they're earning a lot more money than I am, and they've got staff they could have to pay, and etc. So I thought, well, what are my strong points? I thought, well, I know a bit about business. I'm very well connected with knowing people and how to and supply content. I'm pretty clever at working things out in regards that I can make, lemons into lemonade, as the saying would go. So I decided that we're going to try and put on as much content, and this was through Wigmore, as possible, help support people. There's no financial incentive for me to do it whatsoever. No, but I knew what people needed. And I just wanted to be able to, not myself personally, but as a group of people who, like I got Mark and Alex Bug from Web Marketing involved, Vanessa Bird, Russell Turner, and others involved, and Dalby Humza. And we looked at, being supportive to people. We weren't trying to sell them anything. We just wanted them to look at what they can do in this time to support. So we put on close to 40 webinars on business support of some kind every week, what we're doing every week. And I just wanted to provide something for people to help them. And I hope that that will benefit the industry going forward, because I feel that in 2020, it was a time where everyone, even though it was horrible, everyone had to stop and not. I hope it gave people to reevaluate what they were doing, reevaluate how they deal with people, and look for how they can really make their processes and areas of their business which they wouldn't have time to look at better. I'm very lucky to speak to many doctors, nurses, surgeons, and some of them have actually said they've done better than they've done previously, because they've sat down, they've looked at their business, and they said, right, I can't do this. How can I do this better? I've got to improve this process. You know, I rely on one treatment. How can I not rely on that anymore?
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see these people, because to use the word pivot that everyone seems to be using, they were pivoting. And I just think sometimes you have to sit down and take stock of what you're doing. I don't think we do that as enough as an industry. I think we're all very good at, you know, smashing ahead, getting on with stuff. We don't actually think, right, how can we do this better? How can we improve it? How can we give more benefit to our customers, clients, whoever it may be, whether you're a supplier or you treat people. And I think everyone's in such a rush to get stuff out sometimes that they forget, you know, what's the person who's going to be under it going to get out of it?
Yeah.
And that goes for everything. And so what I try to do is take time with what we're doing, with what I'm doing. And I've one of my things that I'm going to be doing with a couple of other guys is like the Midlands Aesthetic Group, because I live in the Midlands. I want to have a little group for the Midlands. I don't want to make money out of it. I just want to have a little group in the Midlands where people can come, they can network, they can talk. They've got a community they can be involved in, and there's no pressure to be at any one place, so they can part of it. But that's just one thing. So I had lots of ideas, lots of great conversations with different people from different companies. So I didn't stop, George. I carried on doing what I was doing, but I did it in a different way. And I also made an effort to phone the people who are not about work. It wasn't about work. We talked about work, because you always do. But I tried to speak to as many people as I could do, who had always been good to me, who I get on well with, you know, just to see how they were getting on, what they were doing, not to become the all-seeing eye of what's going on, but just to see what people were doing, how they were developing, and what they could do. And again, that's something not enough people do. You look at adverts on going outside of industry, how many people have phoned up their friends and over just to see how they are and stuff, and not many people did that. And it was great that I was able to speak to so many different people from different parts of the sector and see how they actually were doing and what they were doing to make it. And everyone I spoke to had a plan of what they were going to do. I mean, you know, they didn't just stop. They carried on, and they adapted and they carried on, which is what I think our industry is exceptionally good at, is they are able to adapt.
Yeah.
I just think that's something that we should highlight, is that we are very good at adapting to situations and making the best out of a bad situation. We're not always particularly great at planning and releasing stuff, but I tell you what, when it comes to it, we don't have to adapt well. Really well.
And on the whole, people do seem to be much more positive this time around, like this lockdown around, and like this year, like having learnt what they learnt last year and putting it into action. I haven't spoken to anyone who's been kind of really down on themselves and down on their luck about it. Everyone's just like, no, okay, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to let it kind of slow me down or stop me. So then on that, you've put together your kind of 5 key things that you think people have to look forward to this year, whether or not we're in lockdown, but just where we're at now in the industry, and ways really, I guess, to kind of turn the situation into positives.
Yeah.
So do you want to start? That's all right.
Yeah.
Do you want to start just talking us through those points, please?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for those who know me, I'm heavily involved in events. I started off working with the State Medicine Live. I run the BASN conference when they have a big conference on. And I think events are a really important thing. Now, I hold my hand up and I say, I used to moan, like going back 2 or 3 years, at one point in February, when it was dark and cold, I was doing 3 or 4 events in a row. I didn't get home to my house. I didn't see anybody, my friends down the local pub. I was moaning like heck about it. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Why am I doing it? I don't want to do it. I will never do that again. Never do that again. not only do events give you the opportunity to learn and develop your skills, whether you're a business, supplier, wherever you may be, it also gives you the most valuable thing that we are not able to do on Zoom and any other of these virtual platforms, and that's network. Networking is the lifeblood of aesthetics. What anybody says, I have done more business deals in conferences, and probably, as being honest, George, as you know, in the bars of conferences, than I have any other shape and time. Most of my deals I've done have started in a conference of some side, because it gives the opportunity for everyone to get together. People who don't normally get 10 minutes together because they're rushing here, there, and everywhere, to stay and have a coffee and have a chat. And quite frankly, I'll be, touch wood, that everything goes off in May. I'll be so happy to step through the doors of an Aesthetic Medicine Live conference and see people and talk to them and see how they are and what they've been doing. Because I've not been able to speak to everybody, but the ones I spoke, but that's what I want. And that's so important, because if you're new to the industry and you're a practitioner, you might not learn as much. You'll learn content from the lectures that go on, maybe not hands-on stuff, but you will be able to meet so many people who will be able to help you in your career at conferences. I met all the people who I call close friends and people who help me in my business at conferences. Not through emails, phone calls, at conferences, where I'll be able to sit down with them, get to know them, and build a relationship with them. That's one thing that conferences do that nothing else can do, is build a relationship with somebody. And George, we became friends at conferences. That's amazing in itself. But that's what the industry builds on. That's what it was built on. David, when you go all the way back to when it first started, David Hicks is the greatest networker you'll ever meet. He is brilliant. And because of David Hicks' network and the way he speaks to people and how it's portrayed, the industry has been able to, not just because of Dave, but other people as well, it's grown, because it started as a conversation and it's grown and grown and grown into what we have now. And that's why events are so important. And besides the business content, the education, the new products, it's a great place to go and be part of. And just spending a couple of hours there, even if you go around and have a walk around and just see people, I would be loath to find anybody who doesn't find something of interest there.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, you'll always find someone who you'll come away. If you put the effort into it, you'll always come away with at least one contact, won't you, that you're kind of excited about following up on. Yeah,
I mean, and this, we spoke about off before we started about how many webinars I've done. I would love someone to come up to me and say at an event, I saw you on this webinar and it helped me do that.
Yeah.
It's not from my own ego, but the fact is that all these people have watched you on when you've done your webinars, George, or when everyone else has done the webinars, people have come and watched you at the time, watch you, and it'd be great to actually meet these people, not just a name on a screen. But, actually see them, say, oh, and I saw you on that, thank you, and just that sort of conversation is what I want to have with people, because I just think it's, even though it's great doing these things, and I don't think this will go away. I think it'll be part of it to stay. But the power of a conversation and a personal experience outweighs anything you can do virtually and or online. That's what I think anyway.
And we are obviously, we haven't got a crystal ball, but it's looking far more promising and far more likely that we will be able to run our events this year, isn't it, in the industry?
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting things for people to look out for. I mean, we go back to what we said previously about planning. I'm very lucky that I know Dalby Humza very well. Dalby and me are putting something together for which you're involved in, Georgia, which is called Success in Aesthetic Business, which is going to be for nurses and surgeons, which is a dedicated day to give people something to take away to help improve their business, and that'll be happening in June, and that's for surgeons as well. And I just think these things are vitally important, and it's all well and good watching people on a screen, but it's not the same.
No.
I would love to speak to somebody who disagrees with me, because it is not the same.
And I think for people who haven't really attended that many events before, this year, when we can get started again, will be probably the best time to come, because everyone, like you said, everyone's going to be so excited with this renewed energy to get back into a conference hall and network and chat and find out what's going on and sit in lectures and get that real face-to-face education. That it's probably a better time than any to start attending events this year.
It is, and you know, I know before lockdown, everyone was talking about virtual events and how they were the way forward and stuff. And to a point, they might be right in 20, 25 years' time. It might be, because the technology will be better, the internet will be better, and it'll be easier to do. But at the moment, it's you can't be. You know, George, you cannot beat it. You know what it's like. You've done as many as I have. Where you go meet someone, have a drink with them. Next thing you know, you're best friends, and and it's great.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to happen in 2021, is that we're able to do that, have a drink with people, professional conversations, and try and work to, I'll go on to my next one, which is like in collaboration, but improve collaboration in the industry.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's, anyway, I'm not going to kill it because I feel very passionate about this, so I'm not going to carry on.
It's Mr. Events.
Yeah, Mr. Events himself, yeah. But that brings me on to my next point, George, which is improved collaboration. Now, I know for a fact that lots of companies, supply companies, have been looking at how they can work better together, combination treatments, that sort of thing. And this is where I'm hoping that the practitioners will take a lesson from the companies and look how they can collaborate with other practitioners, not necessarily in their own field, but how they can work. You know, as for those who don't know, I'm in the growing industry of hair, bit of a pun there. But there's a need to collaborate in that industry and create a referral chain. And it's dead easy. I know I spoke to Georgia about it, spoke to yourself about it, where there's an easy chain of collaboration and referrals. And I do honestly believe that everyone's before lockdown possibly was very wary of other people in their area. But if you actually look at people who don't directly compete against what you do, there is an opportunity to collaborate and referral fees, work together, but keep your business separate. And you know, from what I hear from sales, and the industry is still growing in lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, we've been for nearly 12 months, and our industry is growing still. So that tells me that people are still having the treatments. There's still a meat in the pie for everyone to have a piece. So look at collaborating with people. You know, work together. Don't work against them. Work together, because it'll make it beneficial in the long run. It always does. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but for the majority of people, it will do. You know, just look at what you're missing in your portfolio. If you can't afford to buy a new quick piece of laser, or a new RF device, but you know someone around the corner has got one, ask them if you want to refer people to them and get a fee for it. Yeah. I mean, I don't see why that can't happen. I know some people fall out, and I get that, but if you build it in the right way, and you create a document that specifies exactly what you're going to do, why not?
And then you're also benefiting from cross referrals and their client base.
Exactly.
And then ultimately strengthening the reputation of the industry in your area, aren't you, really?
Exactly. And you know,
businesses.
Yeah, and people, you know, worry about what other people are doing. You know, and I hope this is one thing that lockdown has done, is that it's not a bad thing to see what other people are doing, but rather than worrying about what they're doing, learn from it and make it better.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what Dr. Zhivago around the corner is doing. If Dr. Zhivago's got a new way of doing skincare, look at what they're doing and improve it. Make it your own. Own it. Don't just worry about it. Take charge of it. You control what you do. Don't control what you can't control what they do. And again, that goes back to collaboration slightly, but that's one thing that was creeping into our industry. But everyone was bothered what everyone else was doing. And like I said, it's important to know what's going on. I would be rubbish at my job if I didn't know what was going on. But don't worry about it. Do it yourself. You know.
Yeah, and if there's one thing we all know, it's that there are plenty of patients and clients to go around. Like, the demand is there.
And my good friend Russell Turner, the creative genius, he was telling me 2 days ago that people are saving more money nowadays because of lockdown. They're learning to save money, which is a good thing, because that means they've got the money to spend on other things that they may not have done before. Now, I don't know personally from everybody else, but I know that many skincare companies will have had great years this year.
Yeah.
Because people have been able to spend more money on their skin and looking after themselves. Because going back to what I said about you controlling yourself, the client is only being able to control certain things in their own life. And one of their things is their diet, how they look, how they look after themselves, wellness, which is a big thing going on at the moment. And that's driven that forward. So, and as we all know, once you get into a habit of doing something, that will continue.
Yeah.
So I expect that when the records come out, that all the skincare, or a lot of the skincare companies, if they've done it the right way, will have done well. So
actually, consumer spending behaviour is something that we all have to, we can all look forward to kind of reaping the benefits of in our industry, isn't it? Really,
I think so. Yeah. I mean, the early signs. I mean, I'm not into all that sort of stuff really. I read the BBC News and it's about it, but for the people who tell me about it, I think it's a massive thing that will happen over the next year or so, that how people live their life will change dramatically in regards to how they feel about things. And I think the idea of looking after themselves will be more important because they've actually had time to do it. If you like how we were, where everyone works from 9 till 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, and you go home, you eat, you go to bed, and that's it, and you get up and do the same again the next day. Now it's different because we're working from home, more time at home. You've had time, maybe you've had time to do stuff. Like I said to you before, George, I'm washing and ironing and all sorts of things now. So
first time in his life at the age of 40.
Yeah, that's the first time. Yeah, my mother will back me up on that. But it just shows you that people's lives will change because they won't necessarily want to go back to that.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what's something else we've got to look forward to?
Developments. I'm excited. I'm a bit of a geek in this regard. I would expect that over the next year and a half, there will be great strides in developments in technology and how treatments are done. The reason being is that because even though they've had cutbacks on staff and sales staff, which I'm very sorry about, and probably marketing as well, I expect that the money that some of these companies had left where they are based will be looking at developing products and making them better and easier, and making them how they can work at home. And things like, I know many companies have been looking at the home market particularly. I know many companies have looked at how improving their technology, how they can market it better, how they can help the client who bought the machine better. I would expect that over, whether it's Say Medicine or any of the shows coming up, you'll see a lot of new technology coming out because people have had time to develop them and take them on a level and make the user face easier. Maybe bring an app in with it. One of the great things that I'm looking to be involved with is etrevue.com, which is a brainchild of Rafi from Wigmore Medical. And basically, it's an online consultation form. It's a clinic resource, but it has an online consultation part of it. And that is something I think will be a major part of the practitioner life, is online consultations, because it allows you to be more available to people. And it also allows you to give the opportunity to plan your day, in regards that if you want to do 3 hours of online consultations, they can book that for you. They can do that. That makes, and then they'd have to come to your clinic. They can stay at home and do it themselves. As long as it's obviously skincare I'm talking about, not like injectables, but like skincare. It gives that opportunity for all the therapists and the doctors who deal in skincare to be able to stay at home, let the client stay and be more comfortable, have a conversation with someone over a video stream. And I say it's not the same, but I think this is slightly different. And have your conversation transcribed, it's all done properly, all the images are uploaded, whatever it may be. And there's other software companies doing that as well. I just work on etrevue.com. But I think that's one great development that will be this, that technology will help the clinic experience and also the customer experience. Because I think what COVID has done as well has made everyone think how to make their processes in clinic better and more streamlined and safer. Yeah. I don't know what the blowback from using all the PPE will be, but maybe that will be an improvement, that there will be a standard PPE that people have to wear when they're doing the treatments to be safer. But it's made people think about that at least. Mm-hmm. I just think COVID has been horrible and horrendous in many ways in regards to deaths and all that stuff. But I hope it's made people really think about how they work and how they should work and what is safe to work. And I think with the developments of technology and processes and how people have developed themselves. I classify as development how you develop yourself. I think it's a major thing to look forward to in 2021. And I mean, the other thing is, which I'm really proud of, is that people who normally are very wary of doing anything like what we're doing. Oh, you know me well, John. I'm quite happy to stand up and talk, what people may say rubbish for hours. But there's people I know who weren't very comfortable about doing it. But because of the situation they were in, they were forced to develop themselves into this persona. And some of them have been outstanding. Some of the stuff I've watched, some of the Instagram stuff has improved tenfold.
Yeah.
I get sick. At one point, I turned Instagram off last year because it was pointless, because it was the same stuff over and over again. Now, thanks to people like Alex who have been able to pass their knowledge on to people, people have developed their Instagram so well, and they're more personal, and you can actually watch them without going, well, this is just not fake. This is fake.
Yeah, and people seem so much more like polished when they're doing live videos and are giving really, really good, valuable content. So I think self-development.
I just think it's been able to do this, Georgia, and I hope it's going to make more people comfortable doing it, because I'm almost borderline old for this now, but it's like social media is not going anywhere. But at the moment, we were playing at it. We were really playing at social media. Now people are doing it properly, and that's not just practitioners. That's the suppliers as well. If you look at the standard supply videos, and they'll say some of them, and I've got friends in it who said beforehand that it wasn't very good, and now they've had time to look at it and invest in it. It's amazing.
Yeah,
and it's made a difference.
Yeah, and I think people have been investing in their, like you say, like their brand and themselves, if you are your own brand, and kind of taking much more ownership of that and thinking like, who am I? Who's my business? What are my ethics? How do I want to come across? And once they've had the time to actually really think about that and investing it, people are shining and also really standing apart from each other in their own ways, which I think is great to see.
Well, I think that is good, and I think, like I said before, I think everyone was so bothered about what everyone else was doing that now people I think social media is a prime example of showing that I don't care what other people do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about what I want to do, and if they've done something similar, that's fine. But I'm going to do what I'm going to do because it's my way. And I think social media has shown that.
Definitely. I think it's worth... Sorry, carry on.
Okay, carry on. No, go.
I was just going to say, I think it's worth mentioning when you said a minute ago about technological developments with home devices. I think it's worth mentioning that doesn't have to be looked at as a negative for people who work in the industry at all, because it's looking at it from a point of view of so many more people are getting or will be getting involved in their like personal care and their treatments and their well-being at home, but those devices will never be able to compete with what you can do in clinic, getting that person like involved in that treatment journey as part of it.
Yeah, that's correct. What I mean, sorry, I must explain about what I meant. What I meant by that was that there might be an opportunity to take a piece of equipment home for a rental potentially,
and that's money for you as well.
Yeah, and bring it back in. You'll never be able to go home and do, particularly with, I'm going to use skincare now. With skincare, you are not going to be able to do, if you're a Joe public, go to, just do it yourself and buy it. I will never endorse that. It's the worst thing you can do. You should see a practitioner first, do a proper consultation. But there is a way of, working with collaboration with suppliers and practitioners to work together to come up with maybe a small device that could go home, you rent it out to people, you give them your protocols you normally do, and you say, right, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you stick this on, and I want it back by Tuesday. Like how, going back to when I was growing up, was like the old video rental system, where you go and rent a video for a weekend and you bring it back. If you don't bring it back, you get fined.
Yeah.
And I know I'm simplifying it slightly more complicated, but that's the way, because during lockdown, there was a massive outcry for how can we do more at-home treatments for people without seeing them? And this is where this is all developed from. So this is where I think smaller devices will become dividend, or not small device, particularly lower pricing device will be.
Yeah, and obviously we're not talking about like sending someone home with a laser.
No, yeah, I was not going to say, I can't see someone. I can't see someone rolling down a 70 grand laser down Rugby High Street and lasting 5 minutes. So
but like smaller, like say more compact, like LED devices, or something that would be part of their treatment program when they're in clinic that they can continue.
Yeah, and yeah, and the thing is, because people, I probably said that, I think, oh, we can't do that. It's a new thing, and what I'd say to people is, we don't really react well to new things sometimes, and just think about the benefits for you, that if you had a device that you could rent out for, and you don't actually have to do anything, you just got to give them an instruction manual, and you're getting rental off it. You think about, if you got 5 of them, you think how much money you can make. And then I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to go on that, because I think it's for the people to decide. But
it's thinking about it and looking at what you do and thinking, like, where could I potentially do that with what I do now? And
yeah. I mean, there's loads of things going on, and if I was you, again, go back to the conferences and emails you get from companies. Don't automatically drop them into spam or junk them. Read them, make a note, and then think about it, because I expect that will happen quite a lot, where these companies will start releasing these updates and developments. Don't just ignore them like you would before, because some of them could be really good for your business, really, really good. And I know for a fact there'll be some really good opportunities in the next 4 or 5 months coming out, that if I was a clinic, I'd be on it like that, basically.
Danny, do you want me to leave questions to the end, or
we do questions at the end, Georgia? Because I'm in a role, so I need to keep going.
Okay,
I'll start stuttering again
at the end. I don't want to slip you up. Okay.
No, that's fine. I know you never do it on purpose. Yeah, right. So the other thing is, obviously, for those who don't know, I've been working with Wigmore on their training for 2 years now, and the thing we at Wigmore have seen a very increasing want for is blended training now. Blended training is a combination of online training and face-to-face training. Not for a second before anyone jumps on me and say, do I think we can do every single training online? Again, as I said earlier about events, I don't believe that is possible. I think you can do as much as you can do on theory online, but the face-to-face training does need to happen. So I think the blended training will happen more and more in the industry. I think that's a very exciting thing for the practitioner in regards to time. So rather than maybe having a whole day out of clinic and driving 2 hours to a venue and driving 2 hours back, it might be only a half a day. It might be a case that the trainer might be able to come to you directly. You might, and I think there's loads of opportunity for online theory training, which will happen. Well, it's happening now, let's be honest. It's happened like over the last 6 months. But I think you'll find even more, and this is one thing that COVID has done, particularly for Wigmore's training business, is that we realise the importance of online training now. And that's what we are doing going forward. We are trying to make as many opportunities for people to do training online, so they have that easy access to it rather than traveling all day. And the other benefit is for people who just do theory at home and practical whenever they see somebody, is they actually will be able to do more hands-on. Now, what practitioners like doing is hands-on. They don't want to sit there looking at a person talking about stuff. They want to do the treatment. They want to learn the treatment. They're really touchy-feely people. We want to do that treatment. And I think this will allow that to happen more and more, which again will lead to increased skills of doing treatments. So that's my view on blended training. I think online training there's a place for, and I think it will tick a lot of boxes, especially for theory and increasing upskilling, as long as the assessment is up to standard at the end of it. So people just don't turn up, look at it, and then that's it. There's got to be some sort of assessment at the end of it, so they understand and it's marked by a reputable person within the company, or it's accredited, whatever it may be. But I do believe that blended training will be a more prevalent thing in the market going forward. I can see it completely changing how training is done in regards to amount of time people spend out of clinic. And that goes for business upskills as well. I think, potentially, even though you'll still be at like conferences like seminars where you do a business stage, I think that still will have a place. But I think the opportunity to have business consultations online will increase, where people will be able to speak online to a business person of their choice, whoever it may be, and develop that skill set using that format. I think that will be one thing that will happen, certainly.
And it's another one of those things, isn't it, where everyone's been looking at how they can better streamline what they do, and realizing that a lot of that theory stuff you can do online, and like even better, it can be recorded, you can come back to it, you can, it's not like you're sitting there in a lecture theatre and like feverishly having to scribble down stuff in case you forget it. You can, do it in your own pace and your own time. So yeah, I think I think so. On the whole, with training, the training side of the industry, do you think we're going to see, when we kind of come out of this, do you think there's going to be a bit of a lag in terms of sort of newly qualified people coming into the industry, because we have had to have a pause on the face-to-face training stuff for a while?
I think that from what I hear from associations like BACN, I think there's a lot of people who've come into industry now and are looking for that opportunity to train. I think you'll probably find that, again, once lockdown is out and the restrictions are more, that are easier, and people are more confident about going out, I would expect there'll be a lot of people doing injectable training. What I worry about is, well, without trying to be too controversial, about the standards of training by people. But what I think will happen, there'll be a boom in introductions to courses, introduction to aesthetic courses, basically. I think that will happen. I think there's a lot, and particularly with how the NHS is, and we had this a few years ago where a lot of the NHS nurses came out and started working in aesthetics. I wouldn't be surprised if after this, and I don't blame them, where they've been worked their bums to the bone and saved a lot of lives and kept the country afloat in many ways, that people just don't want to do the NHS anymore, looking for a private occupation, which will more likely be aesthetics.
That's actually such a good point. I know a few people like that actually who were thinking that exact thing. And obviously without kind of getting political or anything, but how tough it's been on NHS workers, some would argue lack of support. I didn't even think about that. We probably will see even more people entering the industry.
My partner, Hannah, she works as a healthcare assistant, and she's not a nurse, she's a healthcare assistant. She has worked on what they call a red site, and I've seen firsthand what it's like for her. And she's not dealing with COVID people directly. She's dealing with people who have been scared to come into GP surgeries, and not only are they dealing with the actual problem that the person has, but they're dealing with the psychological facts of the fact that they're scared to come into a doctor's. Now, you look at some of the A&E figures. The A&E figures are down on people going into A because people are scared to go in there. Mm-hmm. And so if you can imagine, even though the figures are down, you can imagine those people are dealing with horrible situations, and you don't want to be doing that. This has been even though the NHS, hope for touch wood, will survive and it'll be okay, the people who worked in it are going to be, it's going to affect them.
Yeah,
and they might not want to be there. And go back. That's why I think training will be, because I think people will come out of the NHS and they want to be doing private. They won't want to see that again.
So actually, if you're a training provider or you're in that part of the business, this is a great opportunity. We'll hope, really kind of opportune times ahead.
Yeah, as long as you don't go the wrong way, as long as it's don't. Of course. And that's why one thing I'd say is that don't see these people as a commodity. See them as a person. And I'd say that to everyone I work with. Don't see them as a commodity, see them as a person, because you don't know their backgrounds, you don't know what they've been through, and there's different reasons why people come out of the NHS. And I think, like I say, when people do come out of the NHS, if they do and come into our industry, which hopefully they will do, that have a bit of reassure them a bit and try and help them support. And that's what I certainly would be trying to do a week more, is support people as they come into our industry. Yeah,
but using this time to really kind of improve and tighten up and make your training as good and as efficient as it can be.
Yeah, and give them something that they may, we keep going about business skills, but majority of people in our industry have not been trained in how to run a business properly. And if you're a training provider, look at that. I mean, I'm probably not helping myself there, but that's what people will need help in. They'll learn how to inject, they'll learn how to skip, but they won't know how to run a business.
Yeah, so exactly.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's my final point. Let me see you go. I am going to bang my fist at this point. Can we appreciate the industry we're in? Our industry is great. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, we fall out. Yes, we have our fallings out. We disagree on things, but we're very, very lucky to have the industry we're in. Majority of the people I've been with get on well, and they can sit down and have a drink together. Let's appreciate our industry. Let's treat it as an industry that we're proud of. Let's not try and battle against each other and fight against each other and argue about things that relatively, I hope, over the last 12 months that aren't really that important. Let's work it together. Let's make it better for everybody, not just ourselves. Make it great. Yeah. I bang my fist back because I feel really strongly about it. I think And my mentor, David Hicks, has always said this to me: if you make everything else better around you, everything will improve. So don't always think about yourself, think about everyone else. You know, we want to make things better. Everyone talk about raising standards. Let's start raising standards. I'm sick of hearing about raising standards. Let's start doing it. And you know, that's one thing I'll say to everyone who's watching. And you know, if there's something, if you can do one thing to make things better for the industry, or do one thing, then do it. And because it will help everyone in the long run. And let's build this industry up rather than knocking it all the time. Because at the moment,
we are lucky to work in this industry. It's a great industry to be in.
Yeah, the socially and networking and meeting people is fantastic.
Yeah, and everyone loves their job, I find, in this industry.
And everyone's got a story, George. Everyone's got something that's happened to them. You know, we all come from different places. I mean, I used to be a sailing professional rugby player. I've met people who have, you know, flew planes. You know, Patrick Tracy from Ireland, he was on a boat for 12 months. He's gone to Africa and built mud houses. And you know, there's so many people out there who have done great things, and so you can learn from people. And all I seem to see, whether it's in the press or on Facebook, or everyone, people knocking each other, you know, and some people, I'm not saying that some people do some horrible stuff, and I don't agree with that in the slightest. But let's start being positive about our industry. Let's start trying to build up at it rather than knocking it.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you, Danny. We're going to have time, I think, for one question, because I'm conscious of everyone's time. So someone has asked, when we were talking about the ways that you can kind of collaborate and with the whole kind of home devices thing, someone's asked, what type of smaller devices would you recommend to get started with for smaller or independent clinics? I've got some ideas. I don't know what you think.
Well, one of the first things I'd go to is an LED device. I have my chosen favourite, but I would go for an LED device because they are fantastic. They're portable. They deliver on results. There's scientific data behind them. They go with everything you do. If you are an injector or a skincare specialist, whatever you may do, it will work with everything you do. There's other devices that you can look at. You know, if we're looking like potentially a hydrofacial or some of these facial devices you can get, they're good devices as well. Anything that is easy to operate and can add value. I think the biggest thing is add value to what you do in the moment is the biggest thing. But if anyone does want to ask me anything about this going forward, I'm quite happy to offer, you know, advice and pointing people in the right direction. So I have no problem if anyone wants to get in contact with me, and I'll point them in the right direction of what to look at and what to do.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say definitely LED. I think it needs to be something that your clients or patients obviously can't hurt themselves with.
Yes.
And something like LED, you know, you can't do any damage with. And I would say if you offer something like needling in clinic, maybe look at what devices or rollers you can take on that are, you know, below the, obviously not medical needling, but again, something that patients can't really do any damage with, but you can give them really clear instructions. You can maybe record like a how-to video for them, really detailed protocol, how they can use it, how it can enhance their regime. And I think it probably will depend on perhaps your patients who you kind of, you know and trust will listen to your advice. And I mean, a lot of people have been not only retailing skincare, but putting together their own sort of kits, like peel kits, again, not something that's going to be super abrasive or aggressive, something quite superficial, but in with other products, you can, you know, putting like protocols together, with like detailed instructions about how they can replicate their in-clinic treatments, but to a lesser degree, but can help, you know, keep the results going. And I think, I mean, again, on the kind of devices thing, there are things, I know there's some, if you do hair restoration, there's some home devices that Danny would know more about than I do, but may or may not be effective, that again, either LED stuff or that use different technologies that your patients could probably quite safely and effectively use at home to keep their results going. Because it's also from the point of view, isn't it, that you don't want that patient to then come back in and have to start their journey all over again. You want to actually do what you can, not just from a financial incentive for you, but to keep their results going.
Yeah, I mean, that, I think you said the important thing, George, was the fact that they give clear instructions. And the other thing I'd say is it's got to work within your business. Don't just do it because you think it's going to work. Really think about how it will be. You know, you mentioned hair restoration. There's there's a lot of stuff coming out now for, I wouldn't say it was hair restoration, more hair upkeep and hair reduce hair loss, but there are loads of things in that area that I need looking at, and that's another part of development. Is an area that, so I feel very strongly about, I'm involved in, is hair is something that people should look at in their clinics, and something they would read, because everyone's got hair.
Yeah. Yeah, and even things like supplementation. If you do supplements and kind of internal health or weight management and things like that, like keep clients on their supplements, keep them on their ingestible collagen or whatever it is you do, and look at ways perhaps that you can incorporate skincare products in with that. And I mean, you could even do consultations with it. I've heard some people doing consultations with individual patients, and then thinking specifically about packages you can put together of home care or of things that they can do at home that may be worth investing in just for them if it's going to pay off, and on an individual basis. I think
everything you said is spot on, Georgia, and it's exactly right. It's just that sometimes people will do something without thinking it through, and you're right, and they're all great ideas you just said, but what I'd say to everyone watching is just, there's no problem with looking at it, but think how you're going to put it into your business. And it doesn't necessarily go down to the cost sometimes, more down to how you can actually run it.
Yeah.
And if particularly for, some of the skincare regime, you'll probably have to do follow-up phone calls, and it will take time to do, but this is where I feel that we don't do very well, is we don't always put processes in place for everything. But I would really strongly look at putting processes in for everything you do, because I think if you build that into your, like we're talking about home care, then you won't have a problem, because you know exactly what to do at every step of the way. And if something goes wrong, you've got something to fill it in. It's being prepared, Georgia. It's not just buying it and then going, oh, it's going to work magically because it worked magically 300 yards down the road. Yeah. It's thinking how it's going to work for you.
Yeah, and obviously it's worth mentioning, if you are going to be, renting out devices and things, just make sure that your insurance is fine for that.
Yes, and make sure whatever rental equipment you've got with the supplier is that you've got something from them as well to support.
Yeah, make sure they know.
If a baby suddenly decides they're going to drop Thomas the Tank Engine on an LED device, it's not going to be ever so helpful for the next person using it. But like I say, that I'm sure everyone's thought about that already. But it's little things like that some people forget about. But I think it's a market that will continue to grow in the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Danny. It's always lovely to chat to you. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to ask you anything else? Or just
the best thing is Danny, is my email, which is Danny, DANNY, at dslconsultingltd.co.uk.
I'm just going to type in the box, consulting.co.uk.
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram as well, which is DSL Consulting. But if there's anything anyone needs, please get in contact. If I don't know it, I'll know someone who does know it. So I am generally here to help, and the people who know me will back me up on that as well. That I've got to make a living somewhere, but when I can help people, I will help people. So
and same for me and Team AM. So if there's anything that we can help anyone with, whether it's like giving you some content from the magazine where we've spoken about we will have talked about it, and we will have had advice from the experts about it. So my email address is georgia@aestheticmed.co.uk. If anyone wants to get in touch with me for anything broader. Someone's just asking, so I've just put Danny's email address up there in the chat box. And there's mine as well. So we're here to help. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you very much, Danny.
And happy birthday to Vicky Eldridge, because she's birthday today.
Happy birthday to Vicky Eldridge. Exactly. We're going to have people thinking that we're going to take shout-out requests now every week.
Why not? Make it fun. Be loose. That's how we roll. I've got a polo neck on now. Let's make it loose.
Well, it's Friday.
It's Friday.
Wild.
Be a Friday. Wild and lockdown. But please, everyone, stay safe. And like I say, look after yourselves, but think things through at the same time.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, everyone. Have good weekends, and we will see you all soon.
See you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.